Hi guys, welcome back. So a bit of a cryptic title here, Eddie's Secret, Borthwick'S Reality, A Forlorn Hope, and this is reaction to England's pretty devastating loss to France at the weekend. Some real stark reality set in for Borthwick, but you guys made some fantastic comments on those videos, so I just want to react to those because I've got a few more things to add, hopefully fairly interesting. You guys can let me know. First of all, Eddie's Secret. As I previously suggested, Eddie Jones, I felt, didn't rate England's talent. And that's not something you can say when you're coaching England. Maybe when he's finally retired, we'll get to know what exactly he thought. But, you know, a lot of the time last year, I've been saying I don't think Eddie Jones rate England's talent. And maybe he's been watching that game saying, I told you so. However, I stick by my stance that Eddie Jones probably should have tried some of England's younger talent earlier to find out, even though he was convinced they weren't good enough. If you give them a bit more time, maybe you get some guys coming through. And for the World Cup, I think you needed some more guys coming through. But it does make a bit more sense now as you look at it through maybe that lens of Eddie Jones coming to that conclusion that the talent wasn't there. And, you know, the only possible chance maybe was to stick with the older players that had proven themselves at the top level, even though they definitely weren't the players they were. I think for me that's the only way it explains his continued picking of Ben Youngs, Benny Vunipola that is, and Mako, Manu Tuolangi, Johnny May, Jack Nowell, etc. It just feels like he wasn't trusting the talent he was seeing in the Premiership or in his training camps, and he was sticking with what he knew. Also, he was searching for that big six, and we saw England struggle physically against France. I mean, he was playing Maro Itoje or Alex Coles there, which was not the most exciting to watch, but you could see in hindsight what he was trying to do. However, I would stick with that if Eddie Jones had continued with this team and playing in the manner he had, which was pretty dull and pretty one-dimensional, France still would have beaten them on Saturday. Would the loss have been less severe? Maybe. That is very possible, but I think they still would have lost. So I think I'm understanding maybe the logic of Eddie Jones's trajectory, maybe, if I've read it right, slightly clearer now. But again, I stand by a team of Youngs, Vunipola, Johnny May, Nowell, etc. maybe would get to a World Cup quarter-final at best. I don't see them having any chance of winning. So bringing Steve Borthwick in, giving him a go, you know, why not? But certainly some interesting context there looking back in hindsight. Now on to Borthwick's Reality, and I still think it was worthwhile him putting the likes of Dombrandt, JVP Smith through that telling exam of the French outfit stacked full of world-class players, because I do stand by, you never quite know until you test these players. When you stack them directly up against the world-class Olivon, Aldrit, Dupont, Ficou, Penaud, etc., you learn a lot, so I still think that's worth doing. And noting that France, actually, some of their players who maybe haven't quite got world-class status were really stepping up as well. Flamand, Danty, they're getting there as well. So just a super impressive performance from France, but it told Borthwick quite a lot. That direct matchup, they were definitely found physically wanting, despite looking good against Italy and Wales. That step up just seemed a bit too far for many of them, or maybe even most of them. Now with the Six Nations gone, there's a decent logic to Borthwick taking a few options. The first option, we've got a French exam we've just taken, if you like, and some players didn't look like they were up for it. Sinclair, Dombrandt, JVP, Slade, Malins came up short, but he could try and confirm his suspicions by actually playing a very similar team versus Ireland, and if they don't match up then it's simply curtains for them. He could do that. Or option two, he could come to the quite dispiriting conclusion that this is indeed the best players that England has to offer, the ones he have right now, and just accept England are an average team, and once he's got over the disappointment of the loss, he backs them fully and tries to get behind them and coach them to see how much better they can be. Or option three, which is my preferred option really, is not accept the premise that England simply lacks talent at the top level, even if that's true. Now, sometimes when you know something is true or it's likely to be true, if you give into it, often you lose hope, you lose drive. Let's say you're playing a game of rugby or whatever against a team that's miles better than you, and you know you've got little chance of winning, but if you think in that mentality, you're going to lose, you can't pull off something amazing, so you kind of have to accept that it can be done somehow. So that's what I want Borthwick to go for, not accept the maybe reality that England simply doesn't have the talent, and keep on looking. Now, We've seen from under-20s results this year and previous years, maybe there is a sparsity of talent, but you only need to get together 15 or 23 players to make it pop, so maybe he can do it. So, if Borthwick concludes that many of the current players aren't up to the top level, he starts searching, and I think I would go for this growth mindset approach. Even if it's a forlorn hope, I think you've got to keep on striving to try and reach those standards set by the likes of France and Ireland. I think I'd prefer England to fail whilst trying everything rather than to accept the average personally, but let me know what you think. Now, Borthwick may well do worse than Eddie Jones in the World Cup, but as long as he goes down striving for better, I think I'd still be happy than watching Eddie Jones's old guard, grinding a close quarter-final loss in the World Cup. Maybe. So let's finish off on some hope. Maybe a forlorn hope, but I like the romance of that, that band of soldiers fighting away in a possible hopeless situation, maybe overcoming the odds. But anyway, you've got to give it a go. So my hope is that Steve Borthwick was limited to the changes he can make in Eddie Jones's EPS squad, and when he gets the chance to make his EPS squad for the Rugby World Cup, he makes some radical changes and they turn it all around. I mean, could you see the likes of Val Rapava-Ruskin come in, Tom Pearson into the back row, Zach Mercer, Rafi Quirk, and they all come good? And maybe he sticks with young players like Finn Smith and Henry Arundel, and they come good. And maybe Alex Mitchell comes good, Courtney Laws comes fit, Tom Curry comes back and is world class, one of our hookers comes good. It's a long shot, but I think hope is still there, because what's the point of being a fan if you can't stay enthusiastic? So I'll skip on in my blissful delusion, so please feel to tell me how deluded I am or not, and let me know what you think on Eddie Jones's secret and Steve Borthwick's reality. Some really interesting talking points. Love to know what you think, as always, and I'll catch you next time.